The Dershow.
The administration, through the Department of Education and some other departments, sent a letter to Harvard saying, if you want to continue to get federal funding, you got to do a bunch of things. You got to, first of all, end the DEI program, and that's a good thing. DEI is a disaster, and it should be ended. You have to end discriminatory hiring. You have to end discriminatory admissions policies. You have to impose restrictions on anti-Semitic groups and clubs at Harvard. Take, for example, the National Lawyers Guild. The National Lawyers Guild is an abomination. It's a group of hard left, anti-American, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel lawyers, some of them Jewish, who are only lawyers for the hard left. They declare themselves to be essentially the lawyers for Hamas. They blamed October 7th on the Jews, on Israel, and likewise Students for Justice in Palestine. And so the question is, should Harvard be recognizing these groups? Would it recognize the Ku Klux Klan? For me, the National Lawyers Guild and the Ku Klux Klan are indistinguishable in terms of ideology. Sure, the National Lawyers Guild is composed of lawyers, and it used to be composed of liberal lawyers, not anymore. Today, it's radical anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, anti-American lawyers. But they're lawyers. The Ku Klux Klan probably had some lawyers, probably had some judges, but it's not a lawyers group. But I have nothing but contempt for the National Lawyers Guild. It depends on what Harvard's rules are. If it would recognize a group of Klansmen, okay, then it recognized the National Lawyers Guild. But if it wouldn't recognize Klansmen, or if it wouldn't recognize sexists, a group of sexists who called for the end of equality for women, then it shouldn't recognize the pro-Hamas National Lawyers Guild. So, we're seeing this letter comes from the Department of Education saying to Harvard, we want you to do these 14 things. I read it very carefully. About 7 of them are perfectly reasonable. You got to have a little bit of diversity in your school. For example, there is a place called the Carr Center for International Human Rights at Harvard Law School. It's just a blatantly hard left political organization that pretends to be in favor of human rights. It's not. It's in favor of human wrongs. The only human rights that it recognizes are human rights for people on the left, and there are people who are anti-American. And there are so many organizations like that at Harvard. The Divinity School has become a place where anti-Semitism runs rampant. The same thing is true of some other departments as well. No, it's not true of medical research, and Harvard shouldn't be getting its funding cut for research on cancer prevention or diabetes prevention or Alzheimer's prevention. That's all fair game. But so what Harvard did was very typically Harvard clever. The president of Harvard, who I know and who I like, Alan Garber, who's a great scientist and a wonderful man personally, he made a very solid announcement saying we're not going to give in to the Trump administration. We're not going to let them interfere with our teaching, with our administration. We're going to fight back. That's right. That was a message sent to the faculty, because the faculty is very left, and he couldn't survive if he gave in to the Trump administration any more than the former acting president of Columbia. As soon as she capitulated to the Trump administration by offering compromise, essentially she was fired. And President Garber understood that. And so he sent a very, very strong open letter to the faculty. I got a copy of it. Others got copies of it, saying we're going to fight back. We're not going to give in at all. Okay. But then what did he do? He hired the 2 lawyers to represent Harvard who were both Trump insiders, people who have Trump's ear, people who have worked for the Trump family, the Trump businesses, and another one who's, very active. And so President Garber and Harvard are sending mixed messages to the faculty. They're sending a message saying, we're fighting. To the Trump administration, they sent a message saying, we're negotiating. The lawyer, the main lawyer that's representing Harvard, helped negotiate with the big law firm, Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison. He was part of that whole process of negotiation. He's known as a compromiser, a negotiator, and Harvard sent out a message to the administration. Don't listen to what the letter to the faculty says. Listen to who we're sending to negotiate with you. And of course, Trump responded to the public letter by saying, "All right, you're gonna be tough. I'm gonna be tough. I might cut off your tax exemption." Now, remember, Harvard has a $53 billion endowment. It can survive for quite a few years without any federal funding. But could it survive without tax exemption? What about the alumni who contribute millions of dollars every year and take tax deductions? What if those tax deductions are taken away? And what if Harvard's tax exemption from its portfolio, it makes, the Harvard endowment is so wealthy because the people who run it are making, I don't know, 7, 8, 9% a year, sometimes more than that. And it's tax exempt. And the federal government has the power to take away tax exemption. What Trump said is, look, Harvard is not an institution, an objective, neutral institution that deserves tax exemption. It's a political body. It's a body that serves the interests of the left politically, and therefore it doesn't deserve a tax exemption. I don't know whether that would win or lose in court, and I don't know whether it would win or lose in court if there were lawsuits. There are lawsuits. A couple of faculty members have brought a lawsuit against the Trump administration. I know the leading person who brought that lawsuit, virulently anti-Israel, virulently hard left, and he's leading the lawsuit. And then there was a guy on CNN today who was kind of speaking on behalf of Harvard. I don't think he was an official representative, but he's the person CNN picked to speak on behalf of Harvard. And here's what he said. He said Trump has no interest in preventing anti-Semitism. It's just completely a cover. In fact, he said Trump is himself an anti-Semite. He likes Nazis. He supports Nazis. He's had dinner with Nazis and anti-Semites. Therefore, don't believe that this policy has anything to do with stopping anti-Semitism. If that's the best Harvard could do, they're in real trouble. If that's the best they can present as an argument in their favor, that Trump's an anti-Semite and that the policies of the administration to try to stop anti-Semitism has nothing to do with anti-Semitism, that's just a totally phony argument.